Hey guys, it's Paul here, and yes, I have a little bit of a strange fascination with drills. This time I brought in 4 different drills, 20-volt drills that range in price from $50 to $70. So these are in the value price range. Compared to the mainstay drill that I normally use is about $170, $180 drill, the DeWalt XR 20-volt max. This thing is a monster. It's the gold standard. If you want the best on the market, in my opinion, that's the one. I wanted to see how these would compare to the DeWalt. I didn't find any that were in that same kind of performance category, but these are good drills in their own right. I brought in a Black & Decker. This is a $50 drill. Single speed, came with 1 battery, 10 clutch settings. Good overall. Came with no accessories whatsoever. This and the battery and a small charger were the only thing in the box. The Avid Power drill, very similar, like very similar to the Black & Decker. 15 clutch settings on this one, came with 1 battery, single speed range, also around 600 RPM, so both of those are kind of in a medium speed range. Pretty good for power applications, pretty good for speed applications, not excellent at either, but good all-around drills for the kind of hobbyist or homeowner. Then you step up for, see what an extra $10 would get you. The Kimo drill it offers an additional speed range. So this is a 2-speed switchable, low and high range. So low range give you more power, high range is going to give you more speed. And this operates in a speed range of 360 RPM on the low end, and these are speeds that I measured, not the manufacturer specs, up to 1410 RPM on the high end. So you can see the speed difference. You're going more than twice as fast on the high end as these drills, and roughly, almost half the speed on the low end. Finally, the Teccpo. Now, this was the only drill in the test that came with 2 batteries, which I thought was really cool. When I get into the battery performance, so stay tuned and you'll see why it's not necessarily twice as good. This was the only one in the test that came with a metal chuck. And it was a 1/2-inch chuck, so a bigger chuck. These were all 3/8-inch chucks. This one has 25 speed or clutch settings, so lots of variability on the finesse for the tool, and this also has 2 speed ranges. Overall build quality, if I compared these, this is the standout with the metal chuck and a 1/2-inch chuck, and just an overall look and feel. Feels very similar to that DeWalt drill. Great build quality, great durability. This, the Kimo, almost as good build quality, but it does have a plastic chuck and a 3/8-inch chuck. But overall, this is definitely a step up in terms of build quality over the Black & Decker and the Avid. I should also mention that the Kimo was the only drill in the test that has a hammer function on it. So you just switch it into hammer mode like you would a regular hammer drill, and the performance in hammer mode was way better than drilling through concrete without a hammer mode, like way better. Compared to a production, quality hammer drill, it's not in that same league. So I've got a Bosch hammer drill that would outperform this all day long. But if you're just drilling an occasional hole, putting a fastener in a wall or whatever in concrete, what a nice add-on and a nice capability to be able to have with that drill. Now, I don't have the right instrumentation to measure torque accurately on a drill, so I'll give you the manufacturer's specs. 115 inch-pounds up to 530 inch-pounds. Now, this definitely is a more a torqueier drill, if you will, than the others. You can feel it. You'll see when I get into the performance tools, though, it doesn't outperform this by 4 or 5 to 1 over the low end. So the manufacturer's specs around torque are misleading. The range between these two is 115 to 260. So this is supposedly more than twice as torquey as this drill, but they're virtually identical in actual performance. So just be aware of that. The Kimo is rated at 350, so you would expect that that it would be night and day difference, very dramatic. It's very comparable actually in torque and in performance in real world applications to these two drills. The Teccpo, definitely you can feel the advantage. I wouldn't quantify it as considerable as the numbers on the box would state, but it's definitely, you can feel a power advantage on that drill. The first test that I ran was charge time. How long does it take to charge the battery from completely dead all the way to fully charged? Now, I went through 3 charge cycles on each battery before running that test, just so that the battery can sort of get broken in. And I found a big range in charge time. So the Black & Decker and the Avid each took a little over 3 hours, just a hair over 3 hours to completely charge. The Kimo was it was less than half that. It was about an hour and an hour 10 minutes or something like that. And the Teccpo was very similar to that. So these two are very similar and these two are very similar, but about a 2x range between the categories. Then with a fully charged battery, I ran each one continuously until the battery died and it stopped running to see how long it would last. The Black & Decker lasted about an hour. The Avid and the Kimo about an hour and a half each. Very impressive on a charge with a single battery. The Teccpo, which I really expected to be a good performer because it seemed like a knockoff to my DeWalt, ran for about a half hour. I charged the battery, tested it again, ran for about a half hour. I tried the other battery, ran for about a half hour. So you have a dramatic difference in runtime across these drills, ranging from a half hour to an hour and a half. So that tells me that the second battery isn't as much of an advantage as the first. It's still nice to have if you have a situation where you've got a battery that goes dead on you or damaged, and to have another one in the bag ready to go versus trying to track down and buy another battery for one of these. You could be in an out of luck situation. So second battery is good, but it's not as dramatically advantageous just given the poor runtime on that one. And then of course I had to do a raw power test, and I drove a number of fasteners. My main observation that I will make, 2 observations actually. First, this is the most powerful drill in the test, no question about it. The difference was not as dramatic as I would have guessed, especially when you look at the manufacturer's spec. The other observation that I would make though is that all of these drills have remarkable performance compared to drills of years gone by. The lithium-ion battery technology, I think, helps with that, and just overall the power delivery, even on the cheaper drills, is dramatic. I was able to drive, even with these cheap drills, a 5-inch screw all the way home with all the drills in the test. That amazed me. Now I stepped up to driving into hardwood, into red oak, and there you could start to see some difference. That's really where the Teccpo pulled away from a power advantage. But these drills could drive a 3-inch deck screw into red oak with no pre-drilling at all, and they could drive that thing home every time. That was pretty impressive. They actually outperformed the Kimo a little bit in driving the long screws, where the Kimo seemed to have maybe a safety mechanism to prevent it from overheating, and it would kind of stop before it got too hot. So it's probably a good thing, but what that manifested itself as was a little lower performance on some of the tests than these 2 drills. Overall, I think this is better performing, low range, high range, giving you more flexibility and decent power and good runtime. But just raw performance on softwood and hardwood, these really surprised me in terms of their capabilities there. All right, and on the other end of that power performance spectrum, I looked at the finesse of each of these drills, and really that's more of a measure of how easy is it to dial in the right clutch settings, and how consistently will the drill drive home a smaller screw into softwood or hardwood, getting it seated flush consistently every time. Also, I think this is an important thing if you do a lot of hinge installation. Those screws are so prone to snapping, so overdoing it the slightest bit, you're going to have a snapped off screw head and a very difficult screw to extract. So what I found was that all the drills did reasonably well in that category. There were no bombs, so to speak. I found that the best performing in that category was the Kimo. I was able to get that clutch dialed in exactly where I wanted it, and it just would seat those screws consistently every time. All of them did pretty well. I also found that actually the clutch settings on the Teccpo were pretty nice as well, and this was very good, especially with the speed of this drill to be able to drive fasteners consistently seated time after time after time. That was a close second in the Finesse test. All right, to just kind of net things out and say, all right, which drill would you want to choose out of these? It depends what you're looking for. If you're looking for the most power, you just want a big macho drill, the Teccpo is probably the one you want to own. The metal half-inch chuck and all of that torque make it a really nice option. If you're looking for the best value, I'd give a slight nod to the Avid. I think that, pretty similar build quality and so forth to Black & Decker. Good quality, not overwhelming power, but surprising power, and a decent accessory kit. Best overall in terms of the packaging, accessories, adequate power, exceptional runtime, the neat hammer function that nobody else in this class had. I'd give the best overall in my test to the Kimo. So with that, let me know if you have questions. I'm happy to answer anything that I can, and hope you'll give me a thumbs up on this video if you found it helpful. Subscribe to the Toolmetrics channel. Come back for more woodworking, wood turning, DIY, and tool related videos.